Has NAFTA worked for Canada? You know, every election cycle in this country, NAFTA gets pulled out and ceremonially flogged and then put back in the closet. People promise that after the election something's going to happen about it, but I think they know quite well that not that much is going to happen. But I always wonder, well, if there's so much unhappiness among the political class in the United States about NAFTA, how do people in other places feel? And I have an actual Canadian here today to ask. How has it worked for your country?
Well.
Is that a signal to move on, sir?
No, I can say how well it worked if you want me to.
Well, explain for us.
No, I think we believe in free trade. You know, we're a relatively small country, as I say, 34 million people on the north half of North America. We need to have trade to prosper, to have a high standard of living, a high quality of life. I wish the Doha round was advancing in a significant way. It's not advancing in a significant way, so we're advancing our own agenda of more free trade agreements with more countries, particularly in the Americas, as I said before. So we believe in free trade, and we're going to stay on that track.
Is NAFTA a truly trilateral relationship or a series of bilateral ones between three different countries? Is there a lot of trade? Is there a tightening relationship between Canada and Mexico?
Yes, there is a lot of trade between Canada and Mexico. If you look at one part of NAFTA, if you look at the auto sector, there's a sector that really is integrated throughout North America, Mexico, the United States, and Canada, with parts moving back and forth, with some very large parts, global parts companies being headquartered in Canada, with the large auto companies, most of them doing business in all three countries, with the free movement of goods. I think that's a good example of how NAFTA has been successful.
When Canadian politicians hear the ruckus in the United States, the quadrennial ruckus in the United States over NAFTA, do you just figure, well, that's domestic politics, we'll get involved when we have to, or do you really worry about the future of NAFTA when you see poll results coming from the United States, hear speeches about renegotiating the treaty and so on?
Well, we try to stay in touch with the U.S. administration, of course, and also members of Congress, some of whom I'm meeting today. And NAFTA comes up from time to time. More often, though, the discussion is about energy security, for example, the fact that Canada's the #1 provider of oil to the United States, for example, on every day of the week. But I think that in terms of NAFTA, the need is for an understanding to develop in the United States among Americans about how beneficial NAFTA is to the United States and how many American jobs depend on that trade between Canada and the United States, leaving aside Mexico for the moment and just dealing with that trade relationship. It is a beneficial trading arrangement for both countries.
You'll often hear of the Canadian-American border spoken of as the largest undefended border in the world. Is that old cliche going to stand up to the new era of heightened security awareness about that frontier? I was listening to a hearing at involving the Secretary of Homeland Security being questioned by U.S. senators last week, and there was a lot of attention being paid to the methods, the approach toward watching that frontier. And I know this isn't your portfolio, but you are in cabinet. What's Canada's view toward patrolling that very large international border?
Well, our view is that cooperation is essential. It is the longest undefended border in the world, and virtually impossible to have perfection in terms of security on such a long border. Our Prime Minister Harper, President Obama have agreed on a commission that's working together with respect to security issues. A lot of security issues lend themselves to North American security rather than security specifically along that border, making sure that the continent itself is secure, and using the necessary technological advances that we can share in order to ensure that we have perimeter security in terms of a North American perimeter where that's appropriate.
Is there active, ongoing intelligence sharing between the agencies of responsibility in Canada and the United States about who's moving between the two countries, when, under what circumstances?
We cooperate, yes.
Well, has that cooperation ramped up a great deal in the last several years?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think anyone looking at the last 10 years would recognize, of course, that there's a need for increased sharing of security-related information, and that happens. Of course, we're allies. We're historic friends with the United States. Our government has a very good relationship with this administration, had a very good relationship with the President Bush's administration before this one, and we intend to continue that friendly cooperation in the best interests of Americans and Canadians.